Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz, right here on KUAM. Hey, my in-studio guest tonight, really honored and privileged to have him, my twin brother. We served the 27th and 28th Guam legislature. My twin brother, former Senator Bob Klitzkie. Bob, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good, Jess.
It's good to see you.
Pleasure to be on the Buzz.
You know what? I've got to say, earlier we were talking, Bob, I just found out today that you were the first Inspector General in the Guard here in Guam.
That's true, yeah.
Really, the 2 terms that I served with you, we never knew that. It's a secret. Why'd you keep it a secret?
Well, you never asked.
You've got a lot of titles. You're a former DOE superintendent, former DOC director, and boy, you were just not too long ago Judge Pro Tem.
It's true.
Yeah. So you serve in every facet of government. In all. You serve in executive, legislative, and judiciary. You're one of the few that have done that over your career.
No, it's true. Yeah.
And you were involved in the union early on too.
I was, at the very beginning, yes.
Dang. Bob, it's good to have you. Anyway, I asked you to come in here and talk about the situation. You've made the news, have been making the news over the past couple of years in regards to the legislature and their activities, what they do, what they're not doing. Let's first talk about the adequate education. Where do you think it's going, and what do you think has happened to it since you authored that bill?
Well, there have been several efforts to trivialize and weaken the Every Child Act, most notably the insertion of the education surohano between the people and the courts. Because the real thrust of the Every Child Act is that it allows parents to sue. The parents hold the school system accountable when their children aren't getting what they should get. When the surohano law was put in there, there's a phrase in there that said that a parent suing on behalf of his child would have to exhaust his remedy with the education surohano before he could start the litigation process. What was the remedy that the education surohano could provide?
I remembered him making rounds to schools and writing what he saw, maybe weeds growing here and there, things like that.
Quite a remedy.
Yeah, unless the weeds were herbal and can fix it and boil it.
He said over and over again that there wasn't much of anything that he could do, which I agreed with, and it really threw a monkey wrench in the whole mechanism, so to speak. But at least it's out of there now.
Well, it took I think a couple years, and it was removed. Let's go now to not only that, but okay, there's a new selectee, I guess, already of the superintendent, John Fernandez. Okay, you were once head of the Department of Education. The challenges that you met then and the challenges now, would you say they're just as greater, or because?
I think there's almost a steady state there. I think it's always the same. It's always an extremely challenging position. The analogy that I use, Jess, is a baseball analogy. When I first started, I thought that I'd step into the batter's box, occasional single, a double once in a while, hit for extra bases. After I'd really got the hang of it, I thought maybe I could hit a home run or two. But I stepped into the batter's box, and I had hardly gotten in there, and I found there were 7 pitchers throwing baseballs at my head. And just not getting hit is a real challenge. And I don't think it's changed since then. Yeah. I think that there are so many constituencies that are going to be taking shots at the superintendent all of the time that it's going to be a tough job for him.
It's a tough job. Let me ask you this as well in regards to the ERA funding. We got an extension for another year, which is coming up, I think, around September. The superintendent has said, well, I don't think now that they have any authority to come in and tell us, because by virtue of law, a statute, that they transfer the funds in lieu of government putting those funding in. As one who sat at pro tem and as a lawyer, how do you read that law in regards to, again, asking for a transfer, or whether or not the federal government now has authority over that money?
Well, I'm going to have to pass on that, Jess, but I would be rather cautionary in that regard, because my suspicion would be that if officials of the national government are asking for something or requiring something, they've probably read.
They probably read the law.
They're probably up to date on their studies. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I mean, again, but you know what? We're going to go into a quick break, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's talk about part-time legislature and this election reform bill that I guess that was passed. That I guess going up for veto or an override.
Okay.
We'll be right back.